You ever wake up one morning thinking you've finally got your little corner of the world figured out only to realize a few hours later that someone's about to bulldoze everything you built with your own two hands? Yeah, that's about where my story starts. I don't mean bulldoze like, oh, a fresh start, new beginnings, all that motivational junk. I mean literal bulldozers, diesel engines, steel blades, threats with letterhead heading straight for the home I carved out of red rock and sweat in western Colorado. And if you're thinking, no way a homeowners association can just steal a man's land, well, you're about to learn something about how folks in suits play chess on maps. Now, I'm not some wide-eyed greenhorn. I spent 15 years working for the Bureau of Land Management. I know how property lines snake their way through the ground and through the law. I built my place by hand, every nail, every board, every stone. When I bought that one, 6-acre patch tucked up above the tree line, I filed, every paper hammered, every survey stake, read, every deed. Hell, I probably spoke to every neighbor within a mile. And let me tell you, I picked that spot for one reason: peace and quiet. So you can imagine my mood when one crisp Monday morning I'm halfway through my coffee and I see two folks in matching polo shirts and safety vests strutting up my gravel drive, clipboards flapping HOA logos stitched over their hearts like it made them the law. I barely got the door open before the older one, a fella with that government issue haircut, says, "Mr. Holt?" I nod. He shoves this thick envelope at me. Big red stamp. Notice of demolition. 10 days, he says, 10 days to remove all unpermitted structures. If I don't, they'll do it for me and bill me for the privilege. Now, I don't know how you handle surprises, but my jaw just about hit the porch. You're joking, I say. The younger one pipes up. According to updated zoning and subdivision boundaries, this property now falls within Pine Grove jurisdiction. Violations, compliance, removal, he rattles off code numbers like he's reading from a playbook. I laugh. Not because it's funny, just because sometimes if you don't, you'll start screaming. This house stood long before Pine Grove was even a twinkle in some developer's eye. My permits were pulled, signed, sealed, and filed. If you believe there's been a clerical error, the older man tells me, rehearsed as an airline safety demo, you can file an appeal. But the demolition deadline stands. They left me standing there with a radioactive envelope and about 100 questions. I went inside, laid the papers out on my table, and sure enough, there it was, a map, county stamp, and all showing my property suddenly inside the expanded boundaries of Pine Grove Estates. A neat little line snaked up the hill, circled my lot, and boxed me in. But I knew this terrain like my own hands. I pulled out my original deed survey zoning overlay, everything I had. They all showed a clear split between my land and theirs. Somebody had forged a map, and someone in the county office had stamped it. That meant this wasn't just some pencil pusher mistake. This was war. So I drove straight to the county recorder's office. The place still smelled like dust and toner and old coffee. Gwen, who'd worked there since before cell phones, recognized me. I handed her the HOA's letter and asked for the latest parcel maps, plus the originals from when I bought my land. 10 minutes later, she lays two maps side by side. Sure enough, on the new one, my parcel BR102 had slid across the line. Where the old map ended at Ridge Creek, the new one drew the boundary up the hill right through my foundation. At the bottom, a signature, F. Craig County Subdivision Consultant. I knew that name, Freddie Craig. Used to be BLM, now a consultant for any developer willing to grease his palm. Gwen leans in, voice low. Honestly, Jeremy, this came through late. No hearing, just a notation. All I know is it was cleared by the development desk. If I were you, I'd talk to Jason Epps. Jason, a bureaucrat with a flexible spine. He and Freddie, two peas in a rotten pod. I thanked Gwen, made copies, and headed back to my truck. 10 days. 10 days to fight a machine I couldn't even see. My mind wouldn't quit. By sunrise, I was printing every paper, building a binder so thick it could break a toe. I highlighted every boundary shift, every date, every signature. Then I marched into the county office and demanded to see Jason. He tried dodging, but I don't scare easy. I cornered him in his office, binder in hand. He started with corrections to subdivision boundaries. I cut him off, slammed the evidence down, and called out the forgery for what it was. Told him I'd take the binder to the state surveyor, the DA, and every reporter in 3 counties. His face paled. That won't be necessary. But see, that wasn't his call anymore. Back home, I installed more cameras, set up cloud backups, dug into everything I could find on Freddie Craig. Turns out he'd been tweaking boundaries all over the county, always just outside of public view, always with some HOA hungry for more land. A few campaign donations here, a correction there. I sent the whole mess to a friend of mine, Danny, a reporter with a nose for trouble. She called back, "What the hell have you stumbled into, Jeremy?" I told her to come see for herself. Danny showed up the next morning, Gene's windbreaker camera crew in tow. We filmed the old survey stakes, the oak tree with my lot number carved in, documented every inch. That afternoon, I drafted a cease and desist and marched it right into Pine Grove's clubhouse. The receptionist smiled like she was trained to, but her hands shook when I said, "Any unauthorized entry on my land from now on is criminal trespass." Back at home, my cameras caught men in HOA vests, pacing near the edge of my property, measuring, pointing, muttering, but never crossing the line. That night, the rumble of trucks shook the valley. Flatbeds, bulldozers, excavators lined up like a firing squad. I confronted the crew with a court order filed that morning thanks to a judge who'd seen this play out before. You step 1 inch onto my soil, you'll be in front of a judge by sundown. They left engines groaning. But they didn't go far. I barely slept. Every creak sounded like heavy equipment. By morning, my nerves were stretched tight enough to snap. That's when I remembered an old favor years ago. I'd let the HOA run a temporary water line across the southern edge of my land. Just for a summer, they'd said. I never signed a thing. Well, turns out they never stopped using it. I found the line still wet, still marked HOA-FED, and drafted another legal notice trespass, unauthorized utility access, 72 hours, or I cut it off. Hand-delivered. No more Mr. Nice Guy. That got their attention. Mallory Phelps, HOA president, called me herself. "You're threatening community utilities," she snapped. "No," I said, "I'm defending my rights. You've got 71 hours now." Good luck. Then came the twist. Jason Bremer, a neighbor I barely knew, knocks at my gate. His sister worked for the HOA. He tells me they're talking about hiring private security, setting an example. Mallory's losing it, calling you a squatter with a fence fetish. He laughs nervous. Even the board thinks she's lost her mind. Next day, I send my drone to Pine Grove's clubhouse, catch their board meeting record Mallory on a tirade. If we lose this fight, others will resist. The house has to go bulldoze it at night if we have to. Her own words. That's the moment the balance shifted. I took that recording to the courthouse, filed it as evidence. By noon, local blogs had the story "Veteran Land Surveyor Fights HOA." By evening, advocacy groups picked it up. My phone blew up. When I cut off the HOA's water line, sealed it, photographed it, uploaded everything I knew, the fuse was burning short. Next morning, another crew showed up. Plain trucks, hard hats, trying to look official. I met them at the line binder and hand camera rolling, showed them the judge's order, the zoning records, the court seal. They packed up and left without another word. Danny came back with her crew. We filmed everything, permits, maps, footage of the water line. This was bigger than a land grab. The more I dug, the more I found GIS anomalies, forged survey blocks, fake notary stamps. Even the digital overlays didn't line up. I wasn't just fighting for my house, I was about to crack open a conspiracy. Then out of nowhere, an anonymous email, 4 drafts of plat maps, each more edited than the last. The final one folding my parcel neatly into the HOA boundary. The signature block hadn't even changed, copy-pasted pixel for pixel. Smoking gun. Sent it to my lawyer Grant, a bulldog with a badge and a temper. Textbook fraud, he said. By the weekend, the story hit regional news, then national. Auditors showed up at Pine Grove freezing all new permits. The whole scam dead in the water. Mallory hauled out by a county marshal flanked by deputies looking like a balloon that had lost all its air. Charged with conspiracy, forgery, abuse of authority. The judge tossed the HOA's claims, ordered Pine Grove estates dissolved. Every affected landowner got their deed corrected. Mallory pled out 18 months house arrest, lifetime ban from any board in Colorado. Me. I got damages fixed, my boundary markers with laser stamped coordinates, and installed a sign at the edge, private property not affiliated with any HOA. My mailbox reads, Holt Jeremy, independent landholder. Maps verified. I still get hikers stopping by, some snapping photos, some just wanting to hear the story. I pour lemonade, tell them what I learned: the world's not run by monsters, just by folks who think they'll never get caught. Until one day they do. Now let me ask you, where do you draw the line when power and greed come knocking at your door? Is it a fence, a map, a signature? Or is it the moment you decide, enough is enough? I'd love to hear your story. Drop your thoughts. Tell me what you'd have done. Because out here, sometimes justice comes in boots, not robes, and it's always waiting for the next person who thinks they can redraw the map.